My name's Jonny. I started selling on the internet over 10 years ago now. So I've now built a business where we've got warehouses, staff. We mainly sell on Amazon, and I've sold hundreds and hundreds of different products over the years and literally done tens of millions of pounds worth of sales, mainly on Amazon, but also like eBay, Etsy, Shopify, some of these other platforms as well. We get containers to the warehouse, we get containers into Amazon, and we're basically expanding the business as big and as fast as possible. We're starting to send directly from factory straight into Amazon. And this is just going to continue to grow over the next few years. It's massive, and the market is just absolutely huge. So it really started back when I think I was about 14, and I had this passion for buying and selling, or I kind of discovered it during school. And it really started with different products. So I don't know if you remember, but there was things like Livestrong bands. People were selling football pin badges. So I can still remember when I first started doing this, and I was just selling it out of my school bag. And then I kind of got into trouble with school, I guess. So I started selling fun snaps, and if you don't know what they are, they're like little paper bangers basically. People throw them on the floor, and I sold them to a few mates who started throwing them all around school and kind of got in front of the head teacher because of it, and detentions and stuff. But that kind of fueled my fire, and ever since then it just went on and just started to do lots more different products. And the journey really kick-started from there and those moments when I was in my early teens. Things kind of snowballed a lot from there, and it got to the point where I started researching a lot online, trying to find different wholesalers, like where was there nearby that I could find products and sell them for and make a profit. Obviously there's the usual things like sweets and chocolate and things like that, which people would sell at school, which I think I did a little bit of that as well, but then kind of progressed into finding wholesalers. So I ended up finding an area in Manchester where there was loads of different wholesalers for all sorts of different products, anything from like remote controlled toys to household products to clothing, all these different types of things. And I remember I managed to persuade my dad one weekend to take me to these markets. So we went down, and I think it was like a Sunday morning, and it was heaving. There were so many people everywhere, and there was dozens and dozens of shops with different little things in. And I saw one and I thought, right, let's go in here. And they were selling like lots of jokey party type products. And I went in and I saw on the shelf, there was like stink bombs and these like carded products and jokes. And I think as a young kid and stuff, like being maybe a little bit of a practical joker, that was like immediately what caught my eye. I remember going in there, and the guy who was working there was like, oh, you need to spend minimum £50, otherwise we can't serve you because you're just a member of the public. And this was my first purchase, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is like quite big, spending £50. It was the first proper purchase I did. So went for it, bought these stink bombs, and it was really cool. And got home, listed them on eBay, because back then it was just eBay mainly. There wasn't like, or Amazon was there, but it wasn't like a big thing. Listed them, and literally overnight they sold. And it was like, bam, that is like the passion sparked. So over the course of like the next few weeks, just progressed this a lot more. Went back each weekend, bought more and more and more. And it was getting to the point where I was spending like £600, £700, £800 with this wholesaler. So this is one of the places I used to come when I was younger, and it's not changed. The guys are still here, although the main boss man's not here at the minute, but we'll go and have a quick look. So I remember we used to come in here when literally more than 10 years ago, me and my dad, and main guy's not here at the minute, but I remember we used to buy all sorts of things, helicopters, tanks, loads of different remote control toys, mainly Christmas presents. Like even some of these things, like some of these like BB guns and kids toys, it was a mad time. And it's ironic really how things just haven't changed. A lot of it's still the same. A lot of these things back in the day as well, it'd be sold on eBay, not so much Amazon back then. It's so cool to see. It makes me want to get back into this stuff. So yeah, I remember this guy, Rags. We used to do quite a bit together, I remember. But yeah, it was very different back then. You're doing a lot more food and drinks now, and not as many toys. So we used to do even things like this at Christmas, just sold hundreds and hundreds of these, which back in the day was a huge amount. Really simple Christmassy type products. It's like an absolute treasure cave. I feel like a kid at Christmas coming around and just trying to find more products. It was honestly the best days ever. And then kind of like the development of the journey started from there, and I kept looking forwards to, okay, where are these produced? Can I get them cheaper? And things like that. So then we started to go direct to the manufacturer for these products, and that's the journey which a lot of people take nowadays, and it's a very normal process. You'll start small, build it up, and then try and go direct to source if you can. And that's the exact journey that I took. It's quite strange looking back, because really the main excitement for this, it wasn't like the money. A lot of people think you just do business for the money, but the best businesses are those that start from like hobbies and something that's a passion, and buying and selling was the passion. It almost didn't matter what the product was. I think at the time, because of my age, and like I said before, it was just like something fun. Like if it was selling kettles or something, or irons, then it wouldn't be as exciting. But you know, as a young person, that was like what you would mess about with at school and things like that. So I really got into it, and that kind of like sparked and started that journey. Yeah, moving forwards from there, I expanded that range, got lots more of the products around that base of products. So lots of like novelty and jokey type things, like a joke shop type thing. And then just, yeah, grew from there basically. Moved on to lots of different products, remote controlled toys, TV stands, iPhone accessories. So the iPhone accessories ended up coming in from China. I was finding suppliers on different things like Alibaba or DHgate back in the day, bringing all these things in, like hundreds and hundreds of these different products and units. And again, it was just like seeing the sales emails coming in, that's all that counted. Obviously there was some profit as well, otherwise I wouldn't have any money to reinvest. But that was where the main, it was like the buzz of the sale. I think the buzz of the sale is what really drives you through. That was wicked back in the day. Following on from finding some of these products in the wholesalers, I then, like I mentioned before, started going towards direct to manufacture, trying to get some of these. And had to kind of divert a little bit, because it was hard to get some products direct because of intellectual property and things like that. And then I did manage to place my first order. So we were getting in things like remote control helicopters and remote control tanks direct from some of these factories in China. So that was like my first real taste of importing. And then actually probably got a little bit carried away, and I got to a point where I was probably 15, 16 at this time, and I thought, well, we were playing on motorbikes and things like that out in the fields, and I thought, oh, I love motorbikes. I'm going to see if I can get one in. And so I managed to find a supplier that would sell me like 5 pit bikes or field bikes basically at the time. And they were a really good price. And at the time, I didn't think anything of it. I thought these are a great deal. They were like £200 each. So I went ahead, paid it. Now, at the time, I didn't realise about paying by PayPal and things like that. So I'd actually paid them by Western Union. And it turns out that they just never delivered them. And I was chasing them for months. So that was like quite a big hit. So I lost like £1,000 there. And that was a real like reality shock moment for me, because it was like, oh, hang on a minute. I'm sending money to someone and I'm not even getting the products. So it's quite a reality check for me. But I think there's lots of these phases and lots of these hurdles on the journey. And it's just about dusting yourself off, getting going again, and trying again. Just make sure you don't make the same mistakes as you did last time. So there was definitely a bit more due diligence that went into the suppliers that next time. So then progressing from there, yeah, started to get some products in. It really worked, and the journey just started to evolve and really develop into almost like a proper business. Because prior to that, at that point, I guess I was like just playing with it. Like me and my dad would go to these places at the weekend. I managed to twist his arm and persuade him to drive me there, and then I was just buying these different products off the shelf. And I guess it was kind of like a hobby, like I mentioned before, and then things progressed into a proper business, so to speak. But yeah, those were like the glory days, and when it was like super, super exciting. And it is exciting now, but yeah, it's so different to back then. So I guess at that point I could have just given up and thought, oh, I've had my hands burned and I've lost £1,000, which, like I mentioned, was a huge amount of money to me as like a teenager. And I'd built this money up from these these first orders that I'd done and some of these products that I bought in the first instance. And looking back, it was the psychological kind of resilience of what makes up like a business owner or an entrepreneur. It's something that is like inside of you, just to keep going and keep going. And I think that's kind of what makes or breaks you. A lot of people would just give up at that stage, and maybe they're not cut out for this type of journey. But a lot of people, or the people that I've now met since and talked to in this industry, people just keep going and keep going. When there's one door closed, you just got to figure out how do you get around it, how do you get over it, just because it's locked. You can apply that same concept and that same logic to lots of different things in business. So you'll get lots of no's. And it's just about finding out, how can you get that yes? How can you move forward? It's just a different lens and a different angle to look through. So from that point on, it was just, persistence and resilience to just keep going. So then the years kind of progressed a little bit from there. And over the next couple of years, I then left school. And during the holidays, like the 6 weeks holidays or whatever it is, before you sort of go to college or sixth form, I was going to college at the time, and the business was at such a point where I needed to go VAT registered. So I think back then it was 72 or 75,000 the turnover before you went VAT registered. So I was 16, registering for VAT with my business, which was quite unheard of. I didn't know anybody else that really even had a business, let alone going VAT registered. And that was like a massive, I guess I didn't really recognise it at the time, but it was huge really, because it was something that you kind of kept a little bit private. There wasn't like Facebook and things like that where you would broadcast these things. So it was like super unusual. And I remember like then over the next year, 18 months when I was at college, I was like going home straight away afterwards, packing orders, going to the post office with all these bags of mail, which was just crazy at the time. Looking back now, it was so unique. Like I didn't know anybody else that was doing it. It was a really like private thing, like I said. And then there was one time which was really unique. So I got on really well with my lecturer at college, and we all had to do like university applications, whether we were going or not. And at the time, I didn't know whether I was going. And so we were writing our covering letters on the computer, and I was writing mine. It's like, and I think I was going for like a business management course or sport business management. And it was literally just because I love sport and I love business, and it was trying to find something that married those two together. And I remember when I was writing it, he was coming around checking, and I wrote down, I've got a business, this is why you should accept me, I'm VAT registered, we're doing hundreds of thousands of pounds in turnover. And I remember him looking at it thinking, Jonny, what is this? You've never told me about this before. This is crazy. And I told him a little bit about it. Like I say, it wasn't mainstream, like not everybody knew about it. It was kind of like, it was still a hobby, like a side hustle, if you like. But it was something that I was so passionate about. And I remember telling him about it, and like he was loving it. He was asking me loads of things and wanted to know more. So yeah, I sent it off, got into uni, and things again snowballed and progressed. And it got to the point where I was looking at moving out with some of my friends whilst I was at uni and getting a house, or one of these like joint houses that all like friends at university get. But the problem was, well, two problems. I was still packing orders, and my mum was still helping me pack orders in the garage and in the garden shed. There was like hundreds of orders a day on like eBay that were coming through at this stage, and it was just growing and growing and growing. So I basically said to the guys, I can't move out because A, I want to save the money and put it into the business and keep that growing, and B, I need to go home and pack all the orders. So it's like two different things really. And then things progressed, got into the second year of uni, and I just had one more year to go. And the business was at such a point where I really wanted and almost needed to quit, because it was growing so fast. I almost needed to get a warehouse staff and things like that at that stage. So I think I'll have been like 20, 21 around that time. But I decided to stick it out, and just because as a kind of plan B, and I know a lot of people in this industry just go plan A, that's all you should have, go all in on plan A. But at that time, that wasn't what I was thinking. I needed a plan B just in case something went wrong. Stuck it out, finished uni, literally the day after I finished uni. So I finished on the Friday, on the Saturday, I got my first warehouse, which was honestly an amazing feeling. Finally, I could move all these boxes out of my mum and dad's house and out in the hallway, in my bedroom. It's just stacked so high. The house was like a giant cardboard box. There's loads of, well, some pictures of back then. It wasn't really a thing to take loads of photos, and as you can see, like all the camera quality is not great. But got the first unit, like not pretty, just a storage unit basically. And at that stage, again, things just grew to a new and another level. We kept going. I managed to get my mum in full time. I was employing my mum to help me pack the orders at this stage. I was on the computer, listing products, just getting them in. We then got Royal Mail collecting from us like all the time, every day. And it just got bigger and bigger. Like we were filling these vans to the point where they needed to sometimes send 2 vans out just to take our sacks of mail. So I was in there for 1 year in that unit. It was fantastic. It was such a great like learning curve for me. Freezing cold, like no heaters, nothing. And it was like just the raw entrepreneurial journey. It was honestly fantastic. When I look back now, it was like the uncut version. So yeah, there for a year, and I realised, hang on a minute, this is like not big enough at all. I really need somewhere bigger. So luckily nearby there was like a new industrial estate that got built, and I managed to speak to the guy, and it was almost like fate coming together. They just got one unit left, which was like really big at the time. It was probably 7 or 8 times the size of what I had in that early stage, and it was really daunting because it was a short lease, so it was like not something that was financially too much of a burden because we'd done quite well and filled the other warehouse up so much that we needed something else. So yeah, moved into that, and I thought this is going to last for years. Like this is as big as I'm going to get. And I don't know why I had that kind of limitation. It just felt huge at the time. Literally 6 months later, I then got the warehouse next door where we're sitting now. And this is like double the size that's in there. So gone from like 100% the size to like 300%. And then a year later got the next one next door. We get containers into here all the time, like from China, but we're also utilising Amazon Global Logistics and sending stuff direct as well, so it's like mixing it up. But yeah, we've got an amazing team here now, like some fantastic staff and a brilliant team, and yeah, the business has grown to a really good size, so it's all going really well. So I think it's great timing. I'm just here with Andy, who is from Royal Mail, and Andy's been coming, well, how long, Andy, have you been coming to see us?
Probably 7 or 8 years, probably now, yeah.
I think it must be, because we first got 1 unit and then the second and then the third, and Andy used to come in a smaller lorry actually, so what size was that?
That was a 7.5 tonner, and then obviously we're filling that, and I think this is why they progressed to this one, because it's obviously bigger, to cope with the capacities you were sending out, weren't you?
Yeah, definitely. Like at one point we were doing so much with Royal Mail. And yeah, they obviously bring this big truck now, and it's really grown in, well, like I say, this last 7 or 8 years since we've been here. It's been awesome, and thankfully we've got the best lorry driver with us.
Oh well, well, can you say that?
But yeah, it's been really good, and like I guess we've become like good friends, haven't we?
Absolutely,
really?
yeah. Because I've been coming here, and obviously your mum and dad were always here, and your sister at some point when you were really busy.
Yeah.
And they're such a lovely family. Such a pleasure to come here, and you know, makes our day really sort of enjoyable as well.
Yeah.
To see nice people, you know, and we appreciate the good business.
I think that's been a common theme through a lot of it. When you know you've seen the filming with the other people, it's like a big. It's become like a big family in a way, and I think that's what's really nice, and people like Andy and other people that, you know, help out in different things. So yeah, I love it, and hopefully it'll be here for many years to come, and we'll keep seeing you, Andy.
Oh yeah, hopefully, yeah, that'd be nice.
So I think personally, it's kind of like really shaped my personality, and it's built like resistance, resilience, and just kind of, I built this mindset of like just figuring stuff out. Like you don't know everything when you're making decisions. And I remember seeing a really good Jeff Bezos quote, which is obviously quite relevant. And he says, like, when you make decisions, you can't ever have 100% of the information. The majority of the time, you only need 70% of the information to make a really good or an informed decision. And this is the same when finding products to sell and things like that. You can't know all the information. So I think resilience, taking a leap of faith, because that's what we have to do as business owners. Like, you ultimately have to take a leap of faith. We don't know that the business is going to improve and get bigger and better and things like that. Even down to things like hiring new staff, you have to take a leap of faith at times, and that is tough. But the resilience that you build along the journey makes you ready to make those big decisions. And ultimately, if you want to grow a big business and become, a big business, you have to make those decisions. Even though you don't have all the information, you just got to go for it and really push the boundaries. And I mentioned before about, if a door is locked, you need to figure out how to get around it, how to find those suppliers, how to get access to these different markets. So I guess what maybe makes me different, or what makes me tick, it's just such a passion. And I know a lot of people end up just trying to chase the money, but the reality is that everything has to start from a hobby-based mindset, in my opinion. So as soon as you start thinking, I need to make 10 grand a month, 20 grand a month, that's what then detracts you from something that you're passionate about. So I know lots of guys start with that mindset and it kind of never really works out. But when it's developed from a real passion, and I put it down to something called Ikigai, and it's something that I talk about on my training and personally and privately. It's where things come together, and it's something what you enjoy, something what you can make money from, and something that you're passionate about. And it's an overlap of all these things. And I think business is just something that I'm super passionate about. I love the sale. The buzz of the sale is what really gets me going. And I think that has really drove me through the tough times over the years. And there has been a lot of tough times. Whilst the business has always grown, there's always lots of different hurdles alongside it. Whether that is expanding into Europe, expanding into the USA, importing goods from China, dealing with different regulations and documentations. It's tough. There's hurdles at every stage. And I think as an entrepreneur and as a business owner, you just deal with those challenges and problems as you face them. So what makes me get out of bed in the morning? So I guess it's just an instant need for improvement and constant improvement all the time. And I think this is something that's deep embedded in your brain as a business owner and in this way of life, I guess. And it's that constant need and relentlessness to keep improving and keep improving. And it's not necessarily about health or something like that, because it's definitely something that I neglect, but it's more just in business. And the problem is it's relentless, and the goalposts just move and move and move. And even though you're striding to hit those goals, whenever you hit them, you're just going again and again. My morning routine is all over the place, to be honest. I've tried my best over the years to kind of get it as solid as I can, but I'll be honest, it's anything. So I could get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock, all sorts of different times. And then I'll just jump straight on the laptop, because usually I've got an idea or something that's piquing my interest at that time. And again, it's, being in business, you're thinking about so many different ideas all the time, whether it is business, whether it's something on social media or something that you've watched the night before, a film or anything. It just sparks all these little ideas. And these are lots of things that I've chased, and some have come to fruition and some haven't, but again, it's just something that's inside of you. And then kind of jumping on the laptop, exploring these ideas more, forget to have breakfast, because again, it's a broken routine. I really need to sort that out, but that's just part of who you are. I guess the brain is a little bit of a scramble of different things at different times. So who's my biggest inspiration growing up? Well, I think it was Richard Branson, or I know it was Richard Branson, because he was the first person that, or whose books that I read. And I think I got one for one of my birthdays. And it was again, a spark inside me. I can really resonate with this person, the way he's thinking. It's almost what I'm reading is mirroring my brain as it's turning and the cogs are turning inside. And I think from that moment on, I then read 3 or 4 of his books over the next couple of years. And it was wow, this is special. And I feel, again, I could really resonate and get really deep into it. I've read a lot of other books where it's just not the same. So I think there's a few different parts about him which I resonate with. And one of the things is, there's a quote where if you've ever had a shower, you've also had an idea. But the thing is, who can turn that idea into something once they get out of the shower? And there's really very few people who can do that, but he is one of those people. And I think that's one of the main things that I picked up on. It's going through with these ideas. He's so relentless in his pursuit for success, and I think again it's something that I have been over the years. You have to be relentless. Again, you'll get hurdles and stuff, but it's just part of the journey. And talking about the journey is the most important part of business. There is no destination when you live in this life. This life is about the journey. So the destination is just way off. It's like a mirage that sometimes just never appears. Maybe it will one day, but I don't know what that looks like. It's all about enjoying the journey as you're going through the years of life.
So Jonny's work-life balance and mine are totally different. Jonny is very much all work, very little play. So he does enjoy football, so he'll go and watch the odd football game. But since he stopped playing to focus on work, that's it for him. Work is everything, but he gets enjoyment out of it. It's not as if it's like a chore, he's got to do it. He wants to get up to work, he wants to do more, he puts the hours in. Whereas for me, that's not who I am. I like to go home and sit and watch Netflix and enjoy me time, whereas Jonny, to him, he'll always say, oh God, it's such a waste of time, we could be doing so much more. Like, we're just sat here on our phones, like, let's go and do some work, let's go and do something, we could be focusing on this. And like, there's ideas constantly, and I do have to sort of rein him in a little bit sometimes, because I do worry that he'll, burn out from overworking, but it's very rare that happens because it's his passion, it's who he is, and it's part of him. So whilst he doesn't have a great work-life balance, that's fine for him, and he can deal with that. Like, it is who he is, and I've just learned to accept that over the years. And yeah, it doesn't affect us in any way. We know who we are, and we get on with it. When Jonny started the business, his mum and dad helped him a lot. So there is a really nice element of like a family business, and that is something that we've still got going on. Like Jonny's mum, she does come in and help when we're really busy, and it's nice that that's still going. So yeah, like it's not grown into like a big corporate business or anything like that. It's still really nice and family orientated. Like we'll have a cup of tea together, and we'll play like Christmas games and things like that. Like there's still that family environment, and that's just stayed. Like Jonny's not lost like who he is or where he's come from. It's still a big part of it, which is really nice. The staff culture that we've got, it comes from Jonny, like his passion, like we all feel it. So when he's getting products in and things like that, he involves us all in everything that he's doing. So everyone, I don't know, we're all pulling in the same direction, and it comes from him. Like he's excited, he's invested, and we all want to be as well. So we all do it for each other. We're like a small tight-knit team, which is really good. It's fun, it's friendly, and it doesn't matter. We don't just all turn up and then go home again at the end of the day and think nothing of it. Like we come into work, we're motivated, and that's Jonny's personality that he brings into the workplace as well. So like he'll turn up, he's always like happy, he's always like, what are we doing now, what are we working on, come on team, let's go. He's a big role model for everyone as well whilst he's there. So yeah, I think it's a really nice culture that we've got, but it does come from Jonny, and we all want to do it for each other and help build the business together. If I hadn't have got with Jonny, I wouldn't be in this industry at all. So I was a PT before meeting Jonny, and over the years, as like the business grew, when we got together, he was, it got that busy that I started, before doing my shifts, I would come in and help pack the orders with his mum, with his dad. At weekends we'd be going to the wholesalers, picking up stock and bringing it in. So I would do that, then I'd go do my shift at work, and it just got to a point where he needed someone to help. So yeah, I made the decision to quit my job and come full-time into the business. And yet I've been here just over 7 years now since leaving my job, and I don't regret it at all. Like seeing how much it's grown and what we've been able to achieve and what Jonny's been able to build from having that support's been like really good to be a part of as well. And I like to support him and I like to help. So yeah, it's been really nice.
So when I was in my early 20s and the business was really starting to take off, a lot of the sales were on eBay, and Amazon was like this quiet thing in the corner that hadn't really taken off yet. It was more of just an idea for people. And I think Amazon Prime, or FBA, launched in the UK around 2007. And I remember seeing it at the time and thinking, I'm not sure about this, I'm just going to hang back and see what happens. And then I gave it a go a couple of years later, and that's where I really felt and harnessed the power of Amazon, and especially FBA, which is where we're sending products into their storage centres and then they're shipping them out for us. And over the last 10 years, I've really seen the power of leverage, like leveraging their network. They've got obviously fulfillment centres all over the country, all over Europe, US, India, all these other places. And that is really where the business is going, like worldwide, and just leveraging Amazon for what it is. And it's so powerful, and the reach and the network that it gives you can't be compared to anything else that exists in the world. So I first started out doing wholesale when I was, really young, in my teens, and then probably to the very start of my 20s. And then at that point, I really realized how powerful it was to have your own brand. And so since then to now, I've just focused so hard on building my own brands, creating brands, because really that's where the power and hopefully the financial comes into it. You're building something that you own, it's your intellectual property, your own products, you have full control over the supply chain, right from the factory, right to you. I remember when I first listed my first private label product, like so long ago, probably like nearly 10 years ago. It was so easy. You just listed it on Amazon and it sold. You didn't even have to optimize anything. There was no PPC, no advertising. You could get away with one image. Whereas the progression over the last decade of what you have to do now to sell your products is huge. Like, we've started there and we're now here. Everyone knows you have to have a super optimized listing. You have to know what you're doing with PPC. Thankfully, we've learned all this on this process. We've had so many failures along the way, failed products, but again, you just have to be relentless, launch, and things stick. And that's what I've learned over the years. We've learned how to optimize, how to bring in amazing products that sell, and products that are worth something to the brand and to the company. And I just see that progressing. We just need to get better and better all the time. And again, this is part of like the journey and the process. You're just always improving. There's never like this is finished, we can just set and forget forever. It's always progressing. So I think it's about having a passion, not just for the products, or yeah, maybe just for the products and the business in general. So I'm always staying up to date with what's happening in the world, in e-commerce, because ultimately you need to know your business and you need to know what's going on with Amazon, because that's where we're selling. So if something changes, you need to keep up with it. And again, that's just back to your passion. You need to be passionate about your products and your business. And that will keep you involved and keep you up to date with everything that's going on. One of the biggest, most recent obstacles we overcame was the Suez Canal blockage. So we had a container, or I think 2 containers at the time, that were just behind the container ship that kind of beached in the Suez Canal. We really needed these products for a certain event at that time, and it was a massive issue. Like, we were really racing against time, basically. Obviously, it was held up for I think a week, maybe just over a week, and the ships were just so delayed, but we desperately needed those goods. Obviously, eventually it kind of loosened, the ship moved and went, but we then got those goods in and thankfully sold them all. But that was like a really, really stressful time. I think we had about 100 grand's worth of goods in that container that we needed to move within a few weeks. That was definitely one of the biggest challenges that we faced. And Brexit was a huge one for us, because we were selling a huge amount of goods into Europe at that stage. And then it literally felt like our legs were cut off, because overnight, we didn't just have the exchange rate issue, which cost us tens of thousands of pounds in orders from China, because we used to buy in US dollars. It all affected the global supply chain, basically. Yeah, we then didn't sell into Europe for about the next 12 or 18 months. And I think that lost us about £1 million in revenue, in sales to Europe, which was massive at the time. Thankfully, now we've kind of overcome that, and we've reached or overcome a lot of the issues. So like, we're VAT registered in the majority of the countries in Europe. We send goods into there from China, from our factories. So again, it's just about getting over these hurdles and these milestones that just hit you in the face. You just have to learn to deal with it. So COVID was probably the biggest challenge that I've ever faced in my business career. I remember when the news broke and Boris did his speech, and it was like a Tuesday evening, I'm sure of it. And I remember saying to the guys at work, I don't know what's going to happen tonight. Everyone might be off work tomorrow. And then obviously the news broke about everyone has to stay at home. And I just remember going into the office that next day, and usually we'd have a lot of orders, and there was like 15 orders. And it was like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do here? Like, this was serious sort of panic stations. And I can't even imagine like the fear that people had just in everyday life, let alone if you had a business. And over the course of the next few weeks, obviously things like furlough got announced, so it helped to sort of ease a little bit of pressure. But I just remember, because we were growing the business so aggressively at that time, all my money and everything that I had was sort of committed. And then there was this massive thing, which was, oh my God, the business is going to close. And I genuinely thought at that time, I'm not sure if we can carry on. Like, in a few weeks' time, because we were so committed and that the blocks were in place for the sales to come in and the funds were committed, that it was then really difficult to know what was going to happen. And I remember looking at some of the bills from the previous month and thinking, if these come in, then who knows what's going to happen. So fast forward a little bit, and this was a real test of like who you are and who I was as a business owner and entrepreneur, if you like. And it was at a point in time where your back's against the wall, you need to make something happen, i.e. you need to make some money. This is a true test of character. And I kind of pulled it out of the bag, I suppose. Over the next few months, I was up and down the country in almost every single wholesaler that was open at the time, trying to source any products that would make money. I was up until midnight most nights, finding these products, contacting them, opening accounts if I didn't already have an account with them, buying literally anything that I could. I remember getting an enterprise van, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, I'd be driving up, near Scotland, down to Ipswich, London, all over the place, trying to source these products. Thankfully, it ended up being a really busy time, which was fantastic. I ended up drafting in my mum and dad to help pack the orders, but that was a real true test of like character, and really made me realise that when times are tough and you need to make something happen, that you can pull it out of the bag and make it work. So ironically, it was almost a switch from doing the normal private label stuff that I've been doing for so many years, and then going back into wholesale, picking it up instantly and just making it work, making it happen, and ultimately keeping the business alive and afloat for the future, which is what I managed to do. And that was the most testing time of my career. I'll never forget it, and it was a memorable time. In a way, it ended up being a fun time because we were doing so many different products, and then gradually the staff started coming back. And the reason we could do all these different products was because Amazon essentially removed themselves from a lot of listings that weren't necessary or essential products. So Amazon were focusing on the face masks, respiratory type things, gloves, all these types of products. So it opened like this golden gate and this golden market of products that originally they'd had locked down, but they suddenly became available to people like myself, and it was a flurry. We had some of the best times we've ever had. And now, once it then finished, Amazon came back on and that kind of closed. But yeah, that was both a scary time, a super scary time, and then like an amazing time at the same. But yeah, I'll always remember that as a mad time. So some major milestones along my journey, which I can like really vividly remember. So I remember in my late teens, I was doing like loads and loads of sales. And I remember my mum used to help me a lot with packing the orders. My dad would be doing customer messages on eBay. And at one point it was so busy, and thankfully we then kind of got over that hurdle, and I then actually sent them on holiday at that time, and that was like that was just a huge moment for me, like giving them something back because they'd given me so much. They'd just given me their time, which was super precious, and I just really wanted to give back something to them. So booked them a holiday. I think it was to Ibiza, and so they went there, had a great time for a week. I was then on customer messages and doing all the orders, so it was then crazy. But yeah, it was a really like pivotal moment in time. And then other things like buying one of my dream cars. So I bought a Range Rover from Urban. So there's a company in Milton Keynes called Urban Automotive, and they do these like supercars and things like that. And I remember buying a Range Rover from there, and that was like my dream car back then. I've never really been massively into them, but I just really wanted that one. So that was like wicked. And then other milestones, like I've recently been working away for a month in other countries, been on like crazy holidays all over the world, whether it's like Caribbean or Maldives and stuff. And those are like some of the rewards of the hard work over the years and the late nights and the early mornings. And you do have to step back sometimes and give yourself these rewards and milestones. Otherwise you do just become burnt out and it's just too much. So some advice I would give to someone starting out on this journey. I think number one, the most important thing is look for someone who has been there and done it. It's so important to expedite your process of learning. And I know whilst I was on my journey, I just figured everything out for myself. I made so many mistakes, I lost so much money during the journey. I wouldn't change it myself because it was part of what made me who I am. But if I wanted to start again, or if I was talking to someone who was starting out, then I would just say, seek out those who've been there before you. Condense that learning process, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's getting a mentor, you know, that's going to give you so much valuable information. And like, you can't put a price on what that is. It's time. Time is what you're saving here. So that's the most important thing. I'd say the second most important thing is hopefully you'll be really into business, or you'll drive your way through it and pick up that fire inside of your belly. And it's about just having a relentless pursuit. And don't forget that it's all about the journey. It's not about the destination. I've mentioned it before, but again, the journey is what creates who you are. There will be hurdles along the way, and you just have to learn how to overcome those. Since I've started sharing more about my journey and, you know, broadcasting more of what's happened, it's been like amazing. I've helped teach and train so many different people in starting their own businesses, creating private label brands, and really scaling them from virtually nothing to 6 figures and even 7 figures a year. Like I had one guy recently that he started from very little, and he had this idea for building out this range of products. I helped him do that, and he said to me recently that, Jonny, what you've helped me with has completely changed my life. Before, I'd only dreamed about putting a deposit down on a house and buying a house, but now that's become a reality. And having that feedback from someone that I've helped from my experience is just absolutely incredible. Like the feeling that gives you is something that can't be matched. And there's loads of examples like that. I've got another guy who's selling just in the USA, and he's creating like life-changing legacy money. Again, he's going out and buying like his dream supercar, and it's awesome. Like some of the things that, again, from my journey that I can just help other people with, whether it is starting their business or just giving them ideas and a bit of advice and information. It's really rewarding for myself to just give back to these guys and helping them. So that's something I've really enjoyed doing in the last couple of years, and helping these people. That gives me a lot more passion and drive to just keep going and just get up every day. And whilst this business itself it's not running on autopilot, but we have a great team and it's going really well. I can then use a lot of my spare time sort of thing to help these people on their journey as well. And you know, like I mentioned before, it really expedites their process. They don't have to take 10 or 12 years to build a massive business. They can do it in a way shorter period of time, which I think is amazing. If you could do that, why not? It is really important that you do have a good support system around you, whether that's your family or your relationships. You really want people around you that can invigorate you, give you energy. If you've got people that are sucking your energy and it's really difficult, maybe they're putting you down about your business ideas, then you need to remove those people from your life, because ultimately they will stifle your growth. So it's really important to just raise above it, get good people around you, whether that's your partner, family members. Get them to really support your ideas and help you grow as a person, and ultimately that will help your business grow. So my support system growing up really was my parents. So they would really help, like I mentioned before, packing orders, helping with customer queries, really positive about my journey, and really help me grow and thrive in myself. Let my personality be free, and really good for like building the business. It just let me try lots of different things. They never sort of stifled me and said, you can't do that, you can't do that. And then once I got through those years, I got a partner, and she was really supportive of me. She really helped again in the business and understood the challenges and kind of got into my brain with how things work and understood me as a person a lot more. That environment really helped me to grow and thrive and be the best possible person that I could become. I think if that didn't happen, I probably wouldn't have what I've got today. It kind of gives me the freedom to do what I want, express myself, and ultimately keep growing the business. So that's super, super important. Surround yourself with those people that can be really positive. And the last tip I can give you guys is probably the biggest one from me, and that's delayed gratification. Now, I could have bought this car, which for me is one of my dream cars, but I could have bought this a long time ago at the start of my journey, but I decided to wait. And by doing that, you can get much better things, much bigger things, and your business ultimately can grow much bigger. So I'd really say focus on that delayed gratification. The more you can, the more you can grow. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you've really enjoyed this as much as I have done. If this is something that you're interested in, then have a look at the links down below. I also run a mentorship and training program. If that's something that you want to get involved with, then have a look below and drop me a message.